Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. Your hosts today are Scott Barker and Jesse Mayshark, the founders of CompassKnox.com. You can find their daily in-depth coverage and subscribe at CompassKnox.com. The Compass Point podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Almost an Agreement. Almost an Agreement is a layman's attempt to get a handle on the workings in government and politics that we deal with every day. Check them out at almostanagreement.com or subscribe for free on your favorite podcast provider. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And now, here are your hosts, Scott and Jesse from CompassKnox.com.
Welcome to Compass Points, the podcast that covers Knoxville and Knox County, Tennessee news, government, politics, education, anything else that kind of grabs our attention. My name is Scott Barker. I am the co-founder, co-publisher, co-editor, reporter, whatever for Compass, which you can find at CompassKnox.com. We cover all of the above issues. Normally, I am joined by my co-founder, co-publisher, co-editor, Jesse Fox Mayshark. Jesse, unfortunately, is still in Rochester, New York, where his family is. He had to stay up there for a few extra days and is not going to be able to join us. We've got quite a bit to cover here. I'm flying solo, so we probably won't go as long as we usually do, and I hope that won't be too much of a problem for most of you. Most of you probably won't be. We've got some things to cover. First of all, going to run through them. We'll be talking about the public safety complex, the city of Knoxville, which had its grand opening on Wednesday. We'll also talk about the Advanced Knox process, which is the land use revisions that Knox County is making, and the Growth Policy Committee met this week or last week, and we were there for that, and we'll bring you what was discussed there. And also, what we'll start with is we had a report on partisanship in the city elections, and one of the things that popped up. Knoxville has nonpartisan elections, which is basically only means that candidates aren't listed on the ballot as Republican or Democrat. That's it. There are no restrictions on the amount of support that political parties can give to candidates. There's no restriction on anything like that at all. And however, in the last two election cycles, the Knox County Republican Party's been very active. The last one in 2021, the Republicans actually put forward a slate of 5 candidates for city council. None of them won, but they officially supported those candidates, gave them money, gave them support, that sort of thing. In this election cycle, they've endorsed 3 candidates that are still running. They didn't put them up to run. The endorsements were unsolicited, according to all 3 candidates and who received them. And those candidates were Municipal Judge John Rawson, who's running against Attorney Tyler Cavanis, Knox County Planning Commission Chair Tim Hill, who's running against incumbent Amelia Parker in City Council at Large Seat C, and Lynn Fugate, who is unopposed in her reelection bid for at large seat A. Anyway, what we decided to do was, since kind of the partisanship issue had bubbled up, a lot of people have been talking about, the level of participation that the Republican Party in particular is engaged in. Of course, there has also been accusations that Democrats have been doing the same thing, although they haven't officially endorsed a candidate. In for the at-large seat B seat. Debbie Helsley is an official in the Democratic Party. She ran as a Democrat for the Knox County mayor last year. She has a lot of support among Democrats, but she doesn't have an official endorsement from the party, and it really doesn't matter under Tennessee law. Really, the only thing about partisanship is the ballot. The rest of it is fair game as long as you follow all the election rules. So the Republican Party has decided to get more involved in city politics, although and probably because one of the issues is the city tends to vote Democratic, and the vast majority of city council members are Democrats, even though they don't run as Democrats. And that kind of gets down to this idea that that Helsley actually said quite well at a recent forum, is that everybody knows who what party candidates belong to here. It's not a big secret, and she's right about that. If you go back looking at the mayors, you can go back as far as you want, but just go back as far. Victor Ashe was a Republican. Everybody knew it. He served 4 terms. Bill Haslam was a Republican. Everybody knew it. He served most of 2. He ended up running for governor and winning and leaving office. Then the next election was Madeline Rogero, who's a Democrat. Everybody knew she was a Democrat. Then she served 2 terms, and India Kincannon just got reelected for her 2nd term. She's a Democrat, and everyone knows it. Very active in the party. So it's not like these things are secret. They're just not on the ballot, and they're not on the ballot because it's against state law. State law requires that all cities have nonpartisan elections, unless their home rule charter specifically allows it, and Knoxville's charter does not. But we have the Republicans who've been very active, Democrats who've kind of adhered to this, and it's always been up until 2021. It's always kind of been an unspoken rule, kind of a gentleman's agreement, if you will, that Republicans, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, didn't get actively involved, at least overtly involved in the election process in the city, and obviously, people are Republicans or they're Democrats. They're going to give money to whoever they wanted to give money to and all, but the parties kind of stayed out of it up until 2021. Democrats are still staying out of it, at least as far as giving endorsements and party funds to candidates. There's also another player in Knoxville's elections. That's the city council movement. It's a progressive grassroots organization that has been putting candidates forward for the last several years, since 2017, and had some success. Seema Singh got elected to city council in 2017. She was a city council movement member, although she got estranged. They got sideways with the organization, and once she got in office and no longer is really affiliated with them. Then Amelia Parker was a city council member candidate, or city council movement candidate, and she was elected 4 years ago and is running for re-election this year. And then the last round in 2021, there were 3 city council movement candidates. None of them won, but they were all affiliated with them. So that's that. They're basically, it's not technically a political party. There's a state process to being named a political party that could be put on the ballot if it was allowed. They haven't done that. They have no reason to, because it's a city only organization for the most part. But all of this is goes to show that politics is going to be partisan no matter what, and to one extent or another, even though those the party affiliation isn't on the ballot. People who there has been a movement. The legislature considered allowing cities to have nonpartisan elections last year, or earlier this year during the regular session, did not make it to the floor of either I believe either house, but I know it didn't pass. And the proponents of partisan elections, and we talked to Eric Wider, who was the architect behind the Republican candidates in 2021. Is first of all, kind of gives voters a clue as to their party affiliations. Kind of gives them a clue if they're less informed and don't haven't really been keeping up with the candidates and who they are and what they've been talking about. Kind of gives them a clue as to their political philosophy, if you will, and then and also that it increases voter turnout. And Wider has made that point, and he did note, and accurately so, that the general election in 2021 had highest turnout of just about any citywide election that didn't have a mayor on the ballot in decades. So on the flip side, Bill Lyons, who is the interim associate director of the Howard H. Baker School at the University of Tennessee, said, "Hey, that brings national politics into local affairs, and most local affairs, most local issues don't really have anything directly to do with the political parties. That tribalism might take over essentially, then instead of what's good for the city. Those debates can go on and on, but what we were concerned about in the article is, okay, what is actually happening on the ground? And what's happening on the ground is, the parties are either formally or informally lined up behind candidates that align with their philosophies, and that's what elections are all about, and that's what we're seeing. And it is going to be interesting to see what's happening. We are in the middle of early voting. It is we're at the halfway point, or we hit the halfway point on Wednesday. 7 days of the 14 of early voting, and turnout's terrible.
Sorry,
Seth laughs.
I could not laugh at that one, because it is. That's one of my things that I was complaining about on my show. Real quick before we go to the numbers, I wanted to add just I think one of the things that kind of throws off and makes this weird partisanship conversation a little bit more messy. It's like, well, if I'm a member, if I'm an active member of, say, the Democratic Party here in Knox County, and I have a city council candidate that I'm helping do it, the party isn't helping them. I am personally.
Right.
Where the difference being where the Republican Party as an organization is donating and or using their funds and resources. And I think that's like, because I get the confusion and conspiracy complaint per se, because you have characters who are very active members of the party that when we get into partisan elections, they are acting on behalf of the party for a candidate, where now they're acting as an individual on behalf of a candidate. And I could see where it's a very easy thing to cross in watching things happen in front of you.
Yeah. And, just because, Debbie Helsley has a guy who's worked for the Democrats for a long time, who's working on her, Jack Vaughn, who's working on her campaign, and he's basically the campaign manager. And but that doesn't, it's still, she's
I mean,
her campaign is paying him, and he's not being paid by the Democratic Party to work.
Right. The funny way to look at that one is
Yes.
he's a dude looking for a job, and if he's associated directly and employed by the Democratic Party, he can't do that job during a nonpartisan election, so he has to leave job A so that he can take job B.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's there are distinctions, and some would argue that it's a distinction without a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there are people who do get support from candidates, who do get support from people on both sides of the equation. We pointed out in the article we wrote that Lynn Fugit, who as we said earlier, doesn't have an opponent now, but only because the person who finished second in the primary, Cameron Brooks, kind of passed away after a very brief and sudden illness. Right after the primary election, and he'd come in second, so it was going to be lining up there. But Fugit had her support. She has the support of former Mayor Madeline O'Hara, who's a Democrat. Everybody knows that. She also has received financial support from Mike Hammond, who is the Republican county criminal court clerk. And she's got support of several Republicans and several Democrats. I think that there are multiple candidates that have it that way. I think Tim Hill has some Democrats who support him, although not very many. It's also one of those things that if you do have partisan elections, you may not have that quite as much.
Yeah.
If you
if you have any political ambition in your life, you certainly don't want to donate to a party and put that on record.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that happened to Eddie Manis. He ran for mayor. He went to Democrat. While he was running for mayor, he went to Democratic fundraising events. He went to the Truman Day dinner, which means he bought a table, which is a pretty considerable outlay for a Truman Day dinner. I believe he bought the whole table. Don't correct me. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he bought a table. Anyway, he did all that while he was running for mayor, which is a nonpartisan seat, and then he wasn't successful. He lost to Mayor Kincannon, and then he ran for the state legislature as a Republican, and Republicans held that against him. That was part of the whole move to get him removed from the ballot as being, not being a bona fide Republican because he donated to the Democrats at the Truman Day dinner, which he only went to because he was campaigning for mayor.
Because it's very clear in their bylaws about your election. Your election record as well as your donation record is something that's very important, and I would assume in both parties, to be honest. But that was something in the Manis case specifically, that in the bylaws that was where a lot of his questions on bona fide came from. It's like it is very specific. You can't donate to Democrats if you want to be a Republican in the state.
Yeah, and so that's an example of when there is a partisan thing, a partisan election. If you are running, or and probably to a lesser extent if you're a strong supporter, there is every incentive not to be nonpartisan, even in nonpartisan races. So and getting back though to Eric Wider's point about turnout, and the turnout in this election is abysmal, and so far, of course we only have of the 5 races on the ballot, only 3 of them are competitive. We've got, again, Fugit's unopposed. Charlie Thomas is unopposed in his District 5 city council race. So we only have municipal judge and 2 city council races that are competitive at all. And so far, the turnout's been pretty bad. It's only been about 2,500 votes so far, and those are that includes early voting and absentee votes. This election cycle tends to be pretty low when if there's not a mayor. The mayor's race was decided in the primary, so the mayor's race isn't on the ballot, and that tends to make turnout low. I mean, this is already it's 5 times larger than the turnout in 2015. It almost got as and in 2007. So turnout's always has traditionally been anemic. In fact, the largest turnout in this type of cycle since 2003 was 2003 with 21,000 people voting, which was we had a little bit more than that vote in 2021, which was a very very partisan nonpartisan race. And a couple of little things that are of note. All of us old folks are the ones who are going to decide this. So far, that of the number of people who voted, only 171
are under 50.
Are under 34.
Okay.
Just that,
because I want to know. I made the joke on my show a couple weeks ago. It's like, what is it that is attractive to old people about Indian Kincannon? Like, why do you? Because the same cycle happened in the primary as well. We had a very senior turnout for the best way I can think of to put it is that, especially in the early voting. I didn't go back and check the actual election day percentages, but it seemed like at least 50+% were 50+ in that entire series.
Oh yeah, much more than that.
Yeah,
it's just about 80%, I believe.
I mean, I get it. I was one of those kids too when I still lived. When I was a city resident and registered in the city, I don't remember the last time I voted.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where people don't vote when they're in their 20s for the most part, because especially in local elections, because they don't see how it affects them.
Yeah,
it's when they get a little bit older, they get more established, they maybe get married, maybe have kids. Kids are going to be going to local schools. They start paying attention more to the quality of the local schools and deciding where they're going to live. They start thinking about zoning issues of all things, because they want to move to an area where they're not there's not going to be a factory built right behind them. They become property owners. The property tax rate becomes very important to them then, things like that. So, it's kind of a natural progression of enlightened self-interest as you grow older. But it does mean that older folks are going to be the ones who vote. And, in Knoxville, as far as, Mayor Kincannon's appeal, Knoxville, inside the city limits, is a fairly Democratic area. She was the incumbent. She's I think that she would say, well, hey, I helped us navigate through COVID, was able to pay our police officers more and firefighters more, was able to do that. I had to raise taxes to do it, but we did it, and we think it's a wise investment, that sort of thing. And all of these things are kind of factored into where she ended up with 57% of the vote or something like that. But again, turnout was abysmally low during the primary. It's even worse during the general election now. And not only are the voters who are voting older, which is a common phenomenon, they're all of the people who've cast their ballots, about half are West Knoxvillians. They've got. You can vote anywhere at an any early voting location, but obviously when you vote, they can pull out. The election commission can pull out, what district you live in when you do that, and the second and third districts, which are second district is what most of us think about, West Knoxville, out Kingston Pike and all the 3rd district is more northwest Knoxville, Norwood area, out Western Avenue, Clinton Highway area, out in there. And between they're at the halfway point, 990 of the the people had voted were in the 2nd district, and another 392 are in the 3rd. And you want to contrast that, in the 1st district, which is South Knoxville, is about a third of the turnout of the 2nd district.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So like 27 people?
328 people from the 1st district had voted as of the halfway point, and 990 in the 2nd district.
All right, I got a little pundity question for you on that.
Yeah.
Does that give us any feeling and prediction as far as, because I would think, my assumption would be, probably incorrectly because I know I don't know, that would favor a Hill or a Marlowe type candidate over a Helsley or a Parker type candidate, given that the more affluent districts are voting more often, and therefore the more business-friendly candidates might be the ones to come out of that?
Well, actually, in the city of Knoxville, a lot of even some of the affluent communities tend to vote Democratic. Sequoia Hills is case in point.
Right.
But yes, don't necessarily go to Marlowe and Helsley. One of the things is Helsley won the primary with 70% of the vote. It's going to be really tough for Marlowe to make that up. It's not impossible, but it'll be tough. It might be a little bit more instructive to look at Hill,
right?
Who during the primary did best in the 2nd and 3rd districts. The 3rd district is the city's most conservative area.
Sure.
They tend to vote Republican in partisan elections, in the county races and in state races, the presidential race. And Hill did very well there. He did very well in West Knoxville, which is kind of where he is, and his businesses out there is he's been very active, Parker's support tends to be more around the city's core, East Knoxville, North Knoxville, some in South Knoxville, and but if you want to look, East Knoxville is pretty much that's District 6, pretty much the same level as District 1. So they're a third of the vote of
District
West
3
Knoxville.
or
2. East Knoxville. So far, West Knoxville has outvoted East Knoxville 2-1.
Right, 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 3-1. So now North Knoxville has a lot better turnout. Just District 4 and District 5 together have a pretty decent turnout. About 900 votes there. But again, that's equal to only one district in West Knoxville. So
right.
It's kind of so really the
moral of the story is get out and vote, people.
That's the moral of the story. The fact of the matter is the older folk from West Knoxville are the ones who are really driving the election,
right?
And they're the ones who are going to make unless things change in the second half of early voting, which runs through Thursday of this week. So
get your Halloween candy on, get all sugared up, and get out there and do it.
Get out and vote. Put
do it in costume; they won't care.
No, I don't think they will. As long as your costume does not have campaign slogans or names on it. That's the one thing that can't do is you can't campaign in the polling place. So you can dress as a witch or a devil or whatever, but you just can't have a candidate's name on the front of your costume. Well, moving on from city matters to county matters, the Knox County Growth Policy Coordinating Committee met last week. They are looking to completely rewrite the growth policy plan it's a state mandated plan. They've been going through a process called Advanced Knox, which is a big public input heavy process, been going on for a couple of years. But they're getting down to the part where they've taken the input and now they're breaking out maps and talking about exactly how that's going to do. And what the growth policy plan does is it basically divides the county into three parts. There's an urban growth area, which is where cities can grow. There is a rural area, which is the basically farmland in a county, and then there's the planned growth area, and that's what I think most of us would consider the suburbs. Areas that are outside of the city limits, but where there's a lot of growth. Think Powell, think Halls. Those are kind of areas that are planned growth. You can this is something that's kind of it's very unwieldy. The all of the legislative bodies in the county have to agree on the final version of this, and that's the City of Knoxville, the Town of Farragut, and Knox County Commission. They all have to vote to approve this. The Knox County's hasn't been updated in 2 decades. So they're supposed to be updated every 2 or 3 years, and Knox County has basically set theirs 2 decades ago and forgot about it, or didn't, or just they might have remembered it, but they never got it off the shelf. Now they're doing that and it's in a lot of it's in response to the heavy growth that Knox County's experienced over the last decade, and more and more people are coming in. But the biggest change that's come up so far, and it's already controversial, and which is kind of, you think it's going to be once people start seeing, okay, how this is going to affect the infrastructure, how it's going to affect growth near my house, and and how's it going to affect my commute, how's it going to affect schools, that sort of thing. The big change so far is the proposal, and it's just a proposal at this point, is to take 17.5 square miles of land that's currently designated for rural use and putting it into planned growth use. And that is basically making it easier for more dense development, subdivisions, and that sort of thing in this planned growth area. And 17.5 square miles is a pretty hefty chunk. Most of it's in Hardin, or a lot of it's in Hardin Valley, which is already grown. I mean, it's got that cow's out of the barn. Hardin Valley is growing, and but there are other parts in East Knox County where they're proposing to move land from a rural designation to planned growth designations. Areas around Ritta, the area north of Emory Road, between Gibbs and Corryton in East Knox County. Those are areas that have started to see more growth. But nothing to the extent of the Hardin Valley area. But of course, as Hardin Valley gets built out, as the southwest Knox County gets full, the Choteau area south of Farragut, if that as those areas kind of fill up, and those are very expensive areas. East Knox County is a less expensive alternative where there's plenty of land and available for development, but that has drawn a lot of opposition from people who are advocates for preserving rural areas. Kevin Murphy of the Knox County Planning Alliance, Adam Thompson, who's a longtime farmer in East Knox County. They pointed out at this meeting that some of the areas that they're taking out of rural designation, put them in planned growth areas, which would make them easier to develop. Some of those areas have some of the best soils in Knox County, and a lot of people don't think about soils when they think about land use if they're not farmers. But that's where the best farmland in Knox County is, or some of the best farmland in Knox County. And Brodus Hubbs, who's who's on the board of the Soil Conservation District, also talked about that particular issue. So that has come up, and so that age-old tension between development and preservation of farmland is really going to be playing out, and the kind of, I don't want to say battle lines are drawn, but it's going to be a point of contention in this process as it moves forward, because as mentioned, this is where people are finding out exactly what growth would look like under the proposed map of the growth policy plan. And that is, once they put the growth policy plan into effect, that will affect zoning, it will affect development, it will affect roads, it will affect schools, it will affect everything outside of the city of Knoxville and the town of Farragut. It'll affect the lives of all those Knox Countyans. And so now nothing's a done deal yet. The committee is going to be meeting twice more. Then, of course, once they adopt a plan, and they will end up having to adopt a plan at some point, whatever that plan may be, then it comes down to zoning stuff, and then it really gets fun when they do this. One of the lessons I think that came out of the city of Knoxville's revision of its zoning code several years ago through Recode Knoxville is that people are very passionate about it. They're very concerned about it. They're going to make their voices heard, and so I think it's fair to anticipate that there will be a lot of passionate back and forth over this growth policy plan when it comes up for votes. And like I said, it's going to be a while for that before that happens. And Jesse is the one who has been covering that the most closely, and he will be keeping tabs on that moving forward as the battle over farmland and other battles play out. Shifting back into the city, I feel like we're driving in West Knoxville, West Knox County area, where you leave the city limits and come back in, and leave and come back in. We're back inside the city. On Wednesday, the city of Knoxville held its grand opening for its new public safety complex at the former St. Mary's Hospital site in North Knoxville. And it was already open. I mean, they were already using it, but they had the formal event on Wednesday. It is the new home for all things public safety in the city of Knoxville. The Knoxville Police Department has moved from its headquarters in the safety building over by the Civic Auditorium Coliseum, moved to the campus, and that's a place where every member of the force ends up going there. So there's a lot of space set aside for KPD. The fire department has moved its offices, its executive offices. Remember, the fire halls are where all the firemen actually are, and they're out and about in the community. But the executive offices have moved into that. City Court, there's a brand one of the one building that is new in this construction. Most of it was renovated hospital space from the old St. Mary's and then later Physicians Regional Medical Center facility. But the new construction there was to build a new courtroom for City Court. They've moved in. The Knox County Emergency Management Agencies moved into the building. The E911 Center is going to have a backup call center there. So if anything happens and they can't use their main call center, they can always go there. The city's pension board is moved in there, so we've got really a lot of uses, and it's almost 150,000 square feet of space they've got there. As I said, they renovated 3 buildings. They've got a 600 space parking garage that was already there that they moved into. So of course, whenever they open anything like that, they have lots of officials get together and they cut a ribbon and cheer each other on, and they did a lot of that. One of the key things they did was they brought back former Mayor Rogero, who was the one who initiated the project, and she was there. Mayor Indy Kincannon thanked her for her vision and getting it done, and and of course, under Kincannon's watch was when it was the construction work, the actual brick and mortar stuff went on, and the project. One of the things that taxpayers like to know is how their money's being spent. It ended up costing $75.7 million. That's quite a bit more than it was originally going to. It was originally going to be about $46 million.
I want to interrupt on that because I have a question. Because
yeah,
I know we had a couple, 6 episodes ago, we were talking about they'd allotted some more funds for the, I call it the surveillance center. I know it's a nicer word than that, but is that included in this number, or is that going to be on top of?
That is not. That's on top of.
Okay.
So
it's done, but we're not finished.
Well, I mean, they're still doing things like they've still got some doors to install or to replace. They were doing. We went on a tour of it the other day, Wednesday, when before the ceremony. And there's still a little painting going on.
I had the opportunity to go meet with Noel, and they were doing some HVAC work, and so all the ceiling panels were down. Yeah, and a bunch of guys crawling around up there. So. Yeah,
they're still doing what they call punch list stuff. Right. They're still, but it is
the brass tacks is there. They can start doing the actual job there full time.
Right.
They're going to finish getting out of the old building.
Oh, they're out of the old building, and we'll get to the old building in a few minutes. Okay,
I've got some.
But the But yeah, I mean the building is substantially completed. They have moved in. The Real-Time Crime Information Center, which for those who haven't heard us talk about this that much, it is a place where video feeds from either city-owned cameras, or if they make arrangements with private sector, other security surveillance cameras, can be fed into this Real-Time Crime Center. And KPD personnel can be there and monitoring these video feeds. If something happens in one part of the town where some of these cameras are located, they can switch over to those cameras, see if they identify a vehicle leaving a scene, or maybe even get a crime on video there. And that is a tool that they can use. A lot of the other cities have these. It's going to cost a little over $1 million to build out. So if you wanted to add that to the cost, it'd means the building was $76.7 million. So, but the originally, like I said, it was going to be around $46 million. And a couple of additions to that. One is the 911 center, that the backup 911 center that went in. The Knox County Emergency Communications District, which is E911, paid for that. They're out of their funds. That wasn't city funding. That was their funding. That cost about $4.5 million to do that. The city and then during COVID, all the building supply costs soared, as we all know, and it ended up adding $20 million to the cost. It essentially came close to a 50% increase in the cost of the project, and so they added $20 million right there to the cost that they had to pay for. Another thing that happened along the way, as they got toward the end, and they were they noticed that at one of the buildings, one of the old buildings that they were renovating, the brick facade was improperly attached and coming off, and it was not caught in any pre-construction inspections, anything like that. So the city had to go in and spend an extra $5 million to take the brick down and to put new cladding up on the that structure. And so all told, it ended up being $75.7 million, or 76 if you want to add the real-time crime center in. And now most of that was already. I mean, it hasn't really required a property tax increase or anything. It's almost all funded through debt. About $69 million is either debt or a little bit from the general fund. So it's not. We'll still be paying for that over time, but it wasn't. Didn't come out of current tax revenues. It'll be spread out over the next probably 30 years. I'm not sure exactly how long, because they refinance these debts all the time. They also used $2.5 million of the federal American Rescue Plan Act funding. It's kind of came out of COVID again. So if you wanted to look at the COVID scorecard, it cost an extra $20 million, and we got the city got $2.5 million of that discounted. So it's really about $17.5 million is what COVID cost the city on just this one project alone. But and one of the things about this project too that people tend to not think about a whole lot is it was envisioned as a catalyst for North Knoxville. This was going to be this was a hospital complex that was going to be empty. Tenova was moving out no matter what. Going to be empty.
That's a lot of building for a private developer to try to
get in
there and renovate and do something in the private format.
There was no reason for a private developer to do that. It's a huge and very expensive, as we just noted. Some of this also involved tearing down a good portion of the original hospital, although the original building, which dates back to 1929, is still, they preserved it. More on that in a second. But and part of that is what they could do with the other parts of the property, because it's a big site. One portion of it was the Magdalene Clark Tower, which is the very tall tower that you can see when you look up at the site from Broadway, for example. And Lincoln Memorial University acquired it. The city transferred it to them, and Lincoln Memorial University now has its nursing program, its dental program, a couple other things that are in there. 600 to 800 students and faculty and staff a day are there, and more. When they finish building out completely, they think about 1,200 people will be there. One of the things that found out Wednesday when we were touring there is some of that, if you want to call it private development, it's moving in, because at the LMU Tower at the base of it, they
coffee shop, donuts.
Well, coffee shop, yes. Starbucks, if you will.
Okay.
There will be a Starbucks there, and this is in keeping with the public safety theme as well. The Firehouse Subs.
That was going to be my third guess. Dang it!
Yeah, Firehouse Subs is going to be moving into to space at the LMU Tower that they're going to be renovating. So one could say that it's already yielding some results there. The other part of it is that original hospital building the Knoxville's Community Development Corporation, the city's housing arm and redevelopment arm, owns it and quite a bit of green space around it, and they're going to be marketing that for redevelopment. Ben Bentley's the executive director of KCDC. Was talking about that in a couple of months. They ought to have a kind of more concrete plan than what they have now. It's going to be interesting because it is prohibitively expensive to renovate the old hospital building. And so they're marketing the whole site as one site, and there will be land there for new development, new and probably residential, at least mostly residential. And basically, whoever develops this has to be able to make enough money off the new construction or projected revenues from the new construction to pay for the renovations of the hospital, which are going to be very, very, very expensive. So they're trying to work that balance out right now, but that'll be and that would bring hundreds of new residents right there as well. So that would be the thought is when you've got hundreds of students, faculty members from a college there, you've got hundreds of city employees there, you've got hundreds of new residents there, that businesses will sprout up. Some of the businesses around the area will, or some of the other buildings around the area will.
Right. It should hopefully breathe, especially into that section of Broadway that's had a couple of rough years.
Yeah. It's it's in need of that. I live in that area. Jesse lives in that area. You have a business in that area.
I do. I'd like to say this was planned, that we knew this was coming, and that's part of why we decided to move there. But no, we just really like the building. But we'll take either option.
But that stretch of Broadway in particular, since St. Mary's is closer to Broadway than Central, that stretch is pretty has seen better days. There are a lot of check cashing businesses there and payday loan businesses
there's
there.
A couple of colloquies for that that Kroger, but the nicest one to say on air would be that's the scary Kroger as people have described it.
It's not that scary.
Me.
I've been there.
It's not. I've been there 1,000 times.
We shop there quite a bit. It's not that scary. It is interesting. It's a real mixed income, truly mixed income area of the city of Knoxville. You've got 4th and Gill and Old North Knoxville, which they have houses that have been historic houses, been restored. They're very nice. They're very expensive. You've got Oakwood Lincoln Park, which is the neighborhood that the hospital site, the new public safety center, is actually in. That's at the edge of Oakwood Lincoln Park. Oakwood Lincoln Park is much more of a kind of blue collar, middle class, lower middle class area. Then you've got Bell Morris, which is similar to that, which is the area where I live. So there's some public housing near the area. So there's a big a broad range of incomes, a broad range of really. I mean, there are a lot of Hispanic neighbors now that we have in North Knoxville. That's my street is like the United Nations. So it's although most it's really not. It's a nice diverse area, and this project should be able to be a catalyst for development. At least that's the hope the city has. So we'll see how that works. We will obviously be following that quite a bit. And one other thing I was going to mention about this that's very important to the city likes to think is very important. They have set up a partnership with Fulton High School, which is next door to the public safety complex, and Fulton has an academy that within the school that focuses on preparing students for careers in firefighting, law enforcement, other first responder jobs, and so the city is working with them to do lots of program development in hopes of making that a pipeline to emergency service work with the city. And as we all know, if you followed us, it's been a police department's chronically understaffed. The fire department is holding on, but has difficulty filling its ranks. We all know the EMTs are EMT jobs are at a premium. So I mean, there's creating that pipeline, could end up paying dividends in the future if these kids, go through this program, they get introduced to the work. If they have the aptitude for it and the interest in doing it, then it does provide a pathway for them. And so that's been one of the virtues that's been touted by a lot of the city officials as that opens. I think of course the biggest thing in following this story moving forward is going to be what that private development is going to look like around the old hospital side. So we'll be doing that, and that's all we've got for right now. What we'll do is take a little break, Seth, if you don't mind, and we'll come back with some to answer some reader questions. And welcome back to Compass Points. We've come to the point in the podcast when we handle reader questions. These questions are submitted to Compass Colloquy, which is our Facebook members only group. That's a perk of being a subscriber to Compass. You can be a subscriber to Compass by going to CompassKnox.com. Anyway, we always ask our readers who are participants in the colloquy to submit some questions. We usually get several good ones. We can only really address one or two. One of the things that I want to do is someone asked about some of the projects the city of Knoxville is engaged in, and kind of what the status has been. Actually, the city's is part of them, but they haven't. There's nothing happened in quite a long time. So one question was about what was going on with the McClung warehouses. For those who haven't lived in Knoxville very long or have forgotten, the McClung warehouses were along Jackson Avenue, very visible from the interstate. Date back to the heyday of Knoxville being a warehousing and wholesaling distribution hub. Some beautiful old warehouses, abandoned for a long time, neglected for a long time, burned down. Some of them burned down. So the city has taken over the property. They're going to had talked about redeveloping it, but nothing had happened in years. So the last time anything really kind of came up about it was when the state was in replacing the nearby Broadway viaduct over the railroad tracks there at the north end of the central city core. The city didn't do anything while that was going on, but of course that project's been complete for some time now. A reader wanted to know what was going on with that, and while nothing is set in stone, I have had the city officials tell me that the sometime before the end of the year they are planning to have a public hearing or public meeting to get input on what people want to see at the McClung warehouse site, and that is in kind of preparation for sending out a request for proposals to developers to actually redevelop the site. So it's going to get, according to to folks in the city. It is going to be getting some attention soon. I don't know how quickly that will move, but after a couple of years of complete inactivity, I think they're finally going to be moving forward with something. Don't know if at this point if they're just going to have one public meeting about this. We have multiple public meetings about this, but anyway, what they're going to be doing is gathering input to see what interested members of the community and stakeholders want to see at the warehouse site. One of the important things about this site is it is very visible. Whatever goes in there will be visible from I-40. That's kind of a gateway development for the city to for folks who are coming here from elsewhere. So the city will eventually end up taking requests for proposals on that, but first they're going to get some public input. The other project we're going to talk about that a reader asked about is the proposed science museum that is planned for the site just east of the Civic Auditorium and Coliseum, where the police headquarters was before it moved into the public safety complex that we talked about at length earlier. That's in the safety building that's there. It was 60 years old, completely inadequate for the city anymore. They moved out, and this was part of go back. This goes back to the early days of 2018 and 2019 when the whole deal came together for the public safety complex. The city got the Tenova site, the St. Mary's site, for basically $1. Tenova was going to go build hospitals out in West Knoxville, hospital facilities and other medical facilities. They wanted, instead of taking cash for the St. Mary's site, they got tax breaks, payment in lieu of tax arrangements for those sites. And then as part of all of that, the Clayton Foundation, Clayton Family Foundation, which was, of course, established by manufactured home baron Jim Clayton, acquired the safety building side, which was the one over by the Civic Auditorium Coliseum, and announced big plans to build a science museum. They put out some renderings of various options, all kinds of stuff. Then COVID happened, and they put a big pause on the project. Well, now that the city has moved out of the safety building, and that property is now empty, of course, the question has naturally come up: what's going on with the Science Museum? I have asked folks representing the Clayton Foundation about it. They said, we still have plans to do something. We don't have anything ready to talk about yet, but there are plans. I spoke with some folks with the city the other day, and actually the Clayton folks are in the building doing some remediation work in preparation to demolish the safety building, and so they're getting ready to do some site prep. We don't know yet what a timeline is, what it would look like, anything like that. It is although city officials think that'll be coming fairly soon. And one thing that people need to remember about this is not a city project at all. This is a Clayton Family Foundation project. They own the property. They can do whatever they want to with it. It's one of the things, though, the city does have. If the only participation the city really has in it is, there is a clawback provision in case they don't build a science museum on that property. It's way too early to speculate on whether they would actually invoke that, because all indications are that there will be a project moving forward there. We just don't know exactly what it will all entail. Obviously, it will be. They're still planning on building a science museum, but as I said earlier, no timeline, no renderings, nothing like that. But so in both of these projects, the McClung warehouses and the Clayton Science Museum, both are getting ready to move, we think. So that's as far as we can go on that. And that's just about everything that we that I can cover on my own this week. Again, those of you listening know that Jesse is out of town right now, and hopefully he will be back soon. Wish him safe travels and good luck. And coming up this week, we do have a Knoxville City Council meeting on Halloween. Yes, it is going to be scary. Actually, the agenda is fairly light. We'll be talking about some affordable housing that is proposed. They're the same company same developer that basically got run out of Choteau in West Knox County. Is coming back with a couple of development proposals in the city, so we'll be covering that. And also, early voting ends Thursday, so make sure you get out to vote. It's awfully convenient. There's 6 locations around the city. Go to the Election Commission website to find out where those locations are, what hours they're open. The last 2 days of early voting, Wednesday and Thursday of this week, they're going to be extended hours, so they'll be open until 8 o'clock instead of I believe it's 7 o'clock. Excuse me. So get out and vote. Kind of, I don't care who you vote for, what your feelings are. I wouldn't mind seeing this anemic voting trend reversed, and that so get out there. Then election day is November 7th. So that's all we've got for this week. Want to thank Seth Barber, Barbarian Productions, for his work, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. Your hosts today are Scott Barker and Jesse Mayshark, the founders of CompassKnox.com. You can find their daily in-depth coverage and subscribe at CompassKnox.com. The Compass Point podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Almost an Agreement. Almost an Agreement is a layman's attempt to get a handle on the workings in government and politics that we deal with every day. Check them out at almostanagreement.com or subscribe for free on your favorite podcast provider. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.